Welcome to the All Pro Podcast. I'm your host, Jody Football Coleman. And of course, we got Stacy the Show Smith, but we got a very special guest today, Levon Kirkland of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers in the building.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that warm welcome.
Amen. Amen. It's an honor to have you, man. Like we were talking, we were jabbing off camera, man.
Thank you.
It sounded like you were under the weather last time we talked over the phone. I'm glad you're feeling better because you sounded out of it, bro.
I probably was, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, just getting older things sometimes, things affect you a little bit more than what they used to. So, yeah, I was feeling a little under the weather, but I'm definitely feeling better now. So I'm glad to be on your show.
Yeah, and let me while we're on the subject of mishaps, let me apologize to you because again we were jabbing off camera, and I mentioned Miami Hurricanes. He thought I was talking about when that was in school. But I was like, no, yes. I was using that as an example. And he's like, okay, I took that literally.
I did. I really did. Yeah. Sometimes I'm not as sharp as I usually am. So it happens,
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So, kick us off, Jody.
Well, since I got to say, I'm a huge fan, even though, as you can see in my background, I am a Cleveland Brown fanatic. And every time y'all played us, you basically destroyed everything we were trying to do. And my question, I know we're going to go to the college, but I want to talk about the pro if I could for a minute. And you went to a organization that breed linebackers. I don't know what it is. I have never seen an organization that year in and year out produce linebackers. Well, I'm going to ask the question. In your opinion, where would you say you rank among the best middle linebackers in Pittsburgh history?
Oh, wow.
I came out with a haymaker. I'm sorry.
You did. You came out swinging. My goodness, Mike Tyson. Let's see. I like to think that I'm at least number 2 or number 3.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I would like to think that I'm behind Jack Lambert as far as middle linebackers are concerned, as far as Pittsburgh is. Yeah.
And see, I agree with that because, when you look at the loan, y'all had Hardy Nickerson. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Y'all got some studs at the middle linebacker, but you always stood out because of you were a bigger linebacker,
Yes,
middle
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize about my career, about me, was that although I was a bigger linebacker, I did things that most linebackers probably could not do.
Yeah.
And that thing is covering a guy 30 to 40 yards downfield, man to man, then also being able to be very effective against the run, be able to take on larger men than myself, which is probably hard to believe. And I was able to blitz a little bit. Blitzing was probably not my favorite thing to do, but I love covering. I love the coverage part of defense and, stuffing the run. But most people automatically saw me as a run stuffer because of my size.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go back and look at what I did a whole lot more than probably a lot of linebackers did. I was more versatile than probably most people would ever imagine me to be.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. You got sideline to sideline with the best of them. Like I said, when y'all played, I knew y'all had a core of linebackers. David Little, y'all just had so much tradition, man. And I hate it. I'm honest, I hated it. I did. I hated it.
You know what it is, too? Honestly, this is what I thought, is after you get, well, I'm just going to say when we were doing a 3-4, and we had Jack Lambert, David Little, guys before that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do a certain defense for a long time, you really start to know what to look for as far as who to put in place. So let's say you run a 3-4 for a long time. Now you can identify who would make a really good 3-4 linebacker.
Yeah.
And the thing about a 3-4 scheme is every linebacker on the scheme, on the defense, is a little different. So there's a different characteristics you want with the linebackers.
Right.
For example, the outside linebackers, I really feel in order to be a really effective 3-4 team, your outside linebackers have to be almost interchangeable.
Yeah.
That means they have to basically could rush the passer very well, but also they both have to be very good against the tight end. So you don't have to switch. Like if they try to do something where we call scramble, they try to set the tight end, they set them one side and then they try to move them to get an advantage. I think you got to have both outside linebackers has to be very good at being able to rush the passer, but being able to play over a tight end and being able to keep leverage as far as anything running outside. So,
Absolutely.
So
so for us,
basically,
we had Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd. They
mhm,
were the perfect examples of
that-
two outside linebackers who can really cause havoc on the corners, but they can also drop back in coverage. They could also uh, play over the tight end and be physically tough on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then you look at your inside linebackers, and I felt that I was the one who kind of did some of the dirty work. It had to be very versatile, to be honest with you. So as an inside linebacker at that time, because of how they played in the 90s, you had to be a thumper. You had to be able to come up and take on guards and fullbacks. You also had to be very adept as far as covering guys. And sometimes you had to cover a guy for, down the seam for 40 to 50, all the way to the goalpost.
Yeah.
that's too much.
So I had to be able to come, do that, be able to, also blitz because we did a lot of inside zone stuff. So, and then you got Chad Brown, and Chad Brown was a great. He
Ooh.
was really athletic, and
Yep.
Chad could just clean up. You know, he could
Yes.
just make tackles. Uh, you can go in there, force the issue, and he could finish it. A lot of times we did what we call cross dogs, where I would cross the center, and Chad would come in right behind me. And
Mm.
so when you're doing all that work, you got to have somebody who's able to finish, who's able to make the sack. And Chad was really, especially, very good at doing that. And
Yeah.
So he
so,
was headhunter basically.
huh?
He was y'all headhunter basically.
He was I called the cleanup guy. I called him the guy who can make the play. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and so I think that's the reason why Pittsburgh was always so good, because they played the same scheme for such a long time, and you're able to identify who would be good at that scheme, who could come in, whether you changing the guy from one position to another, because both me and Chad Brown actually played outside backers at Clemson. You
Really?
put us inside, now you got better athletes on the inside,
Wow. So
and now you have to kind of learn the nuances of playing on the inside, because we have the athletic ability. Now we just had to learn how to read plays, to diagnose plays, and be able to help each other out. So that was the secret formula, I
wow.
thought.
Yeah. So
It definitely
let's
worked.
let's go let's go to your upbringing and
Yes.
your what was it like growing up in South Carolina at this point when you were just getting to high school and all that good stuff?
You know what? It was pretty cool, man. It wasn't. I know sometimes people look at South Carolina and they look at it as less than. I know how I know we're not ranked high, but you know what? I had a really good childhood. Both my parents were there for me.
Okay.
I had well, we had a big family. I had four sisters and three brothers, and it was really cool. We loved and cared for each other. We had to, we basically, as being one of the younger ones, I had to listen to my brothers and sisters, when
Yeah.
my parents wasn't around. And so it was hard working, because you talk about parents that come from that sharecropping, working in tobacco, working in cotton. So we were hard workers. But my
Okay.
father was determined, him and my mom were really determined for us to have a better life, have an education that they didn't have. But growing up as a kid, man, I know I had meals, I had clothes, we had great Christmas, great holidays, Thanksgiving. I didn't lack for anything. I didn't.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So it was a wonderful experience. And then everybody knew it. I mean, you just knew each other from a small town. So it was great.
Yeah. Small town love is the best, man.
Oh, no
So
question.
yeah, so when did you know you wanted to play football?
Oh, I think I've always played football, but to go to the highest level, I tell people this story. Like sometimes we didn't always have a football, but sometimes we have like like the Morton salt container, the
Yeah.
blue with the girl with the umbrella. They would make the best foot. They could make the best footballs, right? So I was out there throwing that thing around, and I remember catching it. And I remember me saying to myself, and I know I must have said it out loud, or at least I thought I said it out loud, was that I was going to play pro football. And I'm going to tell you, I believed it more. I mean, there was absolutely no doubt. And I know people talk about manifestation now and speaking it in existence. As an 11-year-old, that's what I did. I just
Right.
kind of said I'm going to play pro ball one day. And I just really believed it was all my heart. And that was the day that I knew I wanted to be a football player.
I think that what they call that these days is stubborn drive.
It was stubborn drive. I
Yeah.
mean, I lived it, eat it, breathe it. I mean, it was my first girlfriend. I didn't, I
Amen.
don't, I didn't have a girlfriend in high school, anything like that.
Neither did I.
I really focused in on playing ball, and I had friends and all that stuff. It wasn't from a lack of. It was just, man, I was focusing on playing ball. I really
Yeah.
was. That's what I wanted to do. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I didn't tell anybody because I knew I needed to protect my dream. I needed to make sure that I couldn't afford any doubt. When you're
Right.
dreaming, when you're really dreaming something that big, you can't afford anybody coming in and saying, "Oh, you're not going to be able to do that."
Right.
Even if they don't really mean any harm. People are sometimes they can be negative without knowing they're negative.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I protected it. I didn't tell anybody that I wanted to play pro ball. So nobody really knew. But in
Good.
my heart of hearts, man, I wanted to play.
Good.
I got a question for you. Did
Okay.
you ever miss a game?
I I never missed a game.
I'm like, why don't we talk about that more? Because football is, you are very physical and you are very you played the game middle linebacker. Y'all, it's like y'all getting in a car wreck every tackle,
Yeah.
and you played every game of your career. And we
Hmm.
got guys, no disrespect to the NBA, but we got, because I was a college basketball player, so I get on them all the time. They they low management after 2 games. They got tightness in the back. I'm pretty sure that you sustained some injuries. How was you able to play every game of your career?
Wow, man. I just thought I have to say first and foremost, man. I had some really praying parents, especially my father, who was a minister.
Okay.
So I think that I was protected first and foremost. I understood the more aggressive I played, the less I got hurt. It's
Okay.
like, for instance, in a car accident, normally the car that's providing the most force, that's going the fastest, is the one that's going to cause the most damage.
Right.
Even though you may get damaged yourself, you're going to cause more damage because your car happened to be the more aggressive one.
Right.
So I knew that if I played aggressive, more likely I wouldn't be hurt as much. So I knew giving the pain would help me from receiving the pain.
Ah,
And I think I love of it as well. I love the game. I still love the game. I will always love the game. In that and just playing, I mean, it was a. I know people look at it as a form of entertainment, but I took it more so as my livelihood, and this is what I do, and I take a lot of pride in what I do. You
Yeah.
know, it's just like my father took, even my mother took pride in everything they did,
yes.
and they wanted to do it the right way, the correct way, and that was me. I took pride in what I was doing, and I wanted to do it to a very high level, so I never wanted to miss, especially a game.
Wow. Yeah. So let's go to that. Let's go to that. You mentioned high school earlier. Talk about your days. You played at Lamar.
Right.
Tell us who we might know that played at your high school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tell us who we might know.
Okay. You remember John Abraham?
We do remember John
Yes.
Abraham.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
John Abraham played at my high school.
Ooh.
We have a guy. Honestly, we're a school. We're a 1A school, and from that 1A school, we've had 6 guys who played in the NFL.
What?
And I'm not really talking about. We had one guy who was a free agent, Marshall McFadden, but 5 out of the 6 guys got drafted.
Wow.
So I was in the second round. John Abraham was in the first round.
Yeah.
BJ Goodson was in the fourth round. We got a
Okay.
kid now that's in the NFL, plays for the Rams. Kobe Durant, I think he got drafted
I
in,
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to say the 6th round. And we had a guy named Michael Hammond that was the safety, he played for the Cowboys. He got drafted in the 5th round.
Okay. We know him.
And then Marshall McFadden was a free agent that played for Pittsburgh, the Raiders, and I want to say he played for the Rams. I'm not sure.
Mm.
Hmm.
And BJ Goodson got drafted in the 4th round, and BJ was a pretty good player, I thought. So we had those guys that
Okay.
played from a high school that didn't have more than 300 kids.
What?
That's insane.
That's really insane. We may have another one coming out this year from South Carolina State, the defensive end Green. So if he goes to the NFL, man, that'd be 7 guys from that small high school to win in
Man.
the
That
NFL.
that's insane. So it's safe to say that y'all bleed football there, man. It's
You know what it is, man? People would say it's in the water, but honestly, there's always been a lot of good athletes that come through Lamar. We had a lot of people, a lot of kids that played college ball from Lamar. It's just a lot. I mean, I guess it's there's not a whole lot to do, and athletics just kind of took over. And
yeah.
just like in anything, one person does it, and then another person does it.
Right.
The first 4-minute mile.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, at one point in time, they thought it was impossible to do. They thought, I think it was Roger Mathis, I want to say, that ran the 4-minute mile. They thought it was impossible.
Right.
After he won it, I would say months later, I mean, everybody started running a 4-minute mile.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
One
that's
minute.
what it is when someone does it from your let's say from your culture or from your society, your community, that one person does it. The next one, it may be 10 years from now, but the next one realized there's a connection that if that person did it, then why couldn't I do it?
Right.
And I think that was the formula, and it just started happening. And now the kids at Lamar, man, they want to play ball. They're 7 years old, man. They can't wait to play for the Silver Foxes.
Wow.
Can't wait
Yeah.
because there's such a tradition there
I love it.
of playing, so guys want to play.
Wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you actually come from an enriched sports family. So what I've gathered, somebody in your family was a heavyweight boxer, light heavyweight boxer, correct?
Yeah, it was. I think it's kind of like a distant cousin. Yeah, so I had that. One of my cousins also played in the CFL. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so I've had, and then also I also have a relative that played at Penn State that played football. That had the daughter who had cancer that a lot of people are aware of. So yeah, we got some people in my
For the
family.
Bengals?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember him, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Take us through, and I'm looking. I see Devon Stills. You guys related?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we're looking at. So, and I see Lamont. So so take us through after you leave high school. Take us through the recruiting process,
Oh
uh,
wow. Yeah.
and and tell us the offers you had before you went to Clemson, not Miami.
Let's see. I wasn't very highly recruited at all.
Really?
What?
Not at all. I Well, you got to think about it. I'm from a small town.
Okay.
Uh, Before me, not a lot. It wasn't like a football factory that it is kind of like now. We've had some great athletes that come through there. Tony Shaw was one of the. I think he was South Carolina Basketball Player of the Year at one point in time for 1A. We had a woman named Joyce Robinson that played basketball overseas.
Okay.
So we've had some success, but not a lot. And you got to realize that back in 86, 87, no internet, no really recruiting
Yeah.
services
Yeah.
that we know. So I wasn't really getting recruited at all. And what happened was we were playing in the playoffs. And we were playing a team called Chapin at the time. And some recruits were really high on two of their offensive linemen on that team.
Mhm.
And I remember my Coach Terry Thyers, who was he was so big for me. He really was. And he came to me before the game and he was like, "There's some recruiters out here, but they're not for you."
Mhm.
And that just sparked. I was like, "Okay, cool." It was kind of like we knew each other so well. He was telling me something without telling me something.
Yeah.
He was basically saying, and he was the guy that when I was in 10th grade, basically told me that he thought I could play at a higher level.
Yeah.
He was the first person that ever told me that I could play at a higher level, which made me, since I'm 11, I'm carrying this secret around that I want to play pro football. I mean, I want to play pro football. He's the first man that comes to me and say, like, I think you can play at the next level.
Yeah.
So I'm going to follow his leadership.
Absolutely.
And he was the one that comes to me before the game. He's like, "Listen, there's some recruiters, but they're not here to see you." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you. It's time for me to show out."
No doubt.
And I just happened to have an amazing game. We end up losing because they were bigger than us, and they were they had more guys than us, and but we hung in there. I think we lost by maybe a touchdown or so.
Mm.
But I end up having a great game. We actually played them very well. It was an exciting game. It was a great game. And that's how I got recruited. And I got recruited by South Carolina first. And
Hmm.
then Clemson came along and then they recruited me. So that's really basically how I got recruited. And those were the two only schools that recruited me. I think South Carolina State came in later and Appalachian State. But Clemson was the one who really, I thought, really recruited me well and developed a relationship with me. And the one thing I liked about Clemson at the time was it wasn't, I didn't feel like he was selling me to school. It felt like he was trying to give me an opportunity.
Okay.
And he didn't promise me anything. He really didn't promise me a scholarship. He just like, man, I think you're a really good athlete, man. I think you deserve a scholarship, and I'm gonna fight like hell to get you a scholarship. He said, but I can't. But he told me straight up, I can't promise you anything.
Yeah. I
And
think he
that's
might
how
have
I got
been.
recruited.
I think he might have been enamored with your positive attitude, Levon. Just being on the up and up with you.
Yeah,
So so
probably so.
yeah, I think so, bro. Because I think you just bleed exuberance. Um, so you get recruited to Clemson.
hmm
Tell us about a couple of the games that you played in. Who did you like playing? What one individual you hated to play against?
Mm. Well, I tell you what. When I got there, man, I was the guy who read the program, so I knew everybody on the team because I was always fascinated with where people come from, and
Yeah.
I read a lot of comic books back in my day. So I love origin stories
Mm,
were the best. Like, how do people get their superpowers? I've
mm,
always been curious about where people from, how they became who they are, things like that.
right.
So when I first got there, man, I could like a guy would walk past me, I'd be like, "Oh man, that's so and so. He went to so and so school,"
Yeah.
but nobody probably knew exactly who I was when I first got there. So I had to really earn my spot, and I think I was a guy who was really highly recruited, but worked probably harder. And I was confident that I can play ball. I knew I could play the game. And I end up I redshirted. I end up the next year on my redshirting year. I end up being a starter. We were kind of like rotating, and then finally I became the starter like the last 3 games. But I love playing against South Carolina at South Carolina.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I love being. If I'm playing away, I want the fans to boo me.
Okay.
Reggie
I
Miller.
want them to not to like me or to like our team, and that comes with being good, right? You got to be good
Yeah.
for them to really not to like you. So I love playing South Carolina at Williams Brice because their fan base, I give them a little credit. No matter how good or how bad South Carolina is, they're going to cheer their butts off of South Carolina. They're going to stick it there through thick and thin. But I love playing against them because I love the booing that they would give you. I loved it. It was just something about playing at their home. Other teams I like playing was North Carolina. I like playing at North Carolina. That light blue, that Carolina blue is beautiful. The team I hated playing against was Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech was actually pretty good back then.
Mm,
They actually won the national championship
yeah, that's
my
what.
junior year.
Yeah, DeMarco Coleman and all those
The
guys.
Marco Coleman, they had a squad
Yeah.
that was really really good. I hate playing them. It's also NC State
Mm.
because NC State back then, Coach Sherrington was so smart, man. They were a smart team, man. They wasn't as talented, but they would fight you tooth and nail. And he did some really, I thought was he would out coach other coaches. I thought, and I love Danny Ford, but he had to out coach other coaches because he didn't really have the talent. So that's basically teams I like playing against. The one guy that I was really impressed with was Deion Sanders
Yeah.
Okay.
when he came to Death Valley in 1988 and he ran that punt return. I thought he was the fastest human, the quickest human I ever seen in my life. I mean, I was on that kickoff team, on the punt team, that we were foolish enough to punt the ball to it. We punted right to him. And man, I think I was one of the first guys he blew by. And I had grass in my face because I missed him. And yeah, man, that kind of set the stage for his career.
Yeah, that was yeah, I watched that game when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So you ha- you had 3 all ACC selections.
hmm
You won 2 ACC titles. What was your best game at Clemson?
My best game at Clemson, ooh, I would have to say there are two games that stands out for me. Different years. The first was my redshirt freshman year. We play in Maryland for the ACC championship. We play them at Maryland, and as a freshman, I had I think maybe 12 tackles,
Mm.
a sack, and I ran an interception back to the 3-yard line.
Ooh.
So that's in the championship game, and that's I was like, man, that's when I realized, like, dude, you actually played well in big games.
Mhm.
And then we played North Carolina the next year, and I remember having 2 sacks. I had an interception and had about 6 or 7 tackles.
And this is North Carolina, right?
And this is North Carolina at
Who
their
was the head
place.
coach at that point?
Mac Brown was
Mac
there.
Mac
Brown.
Brown was on our.
Mac
Yeah,
Brown,
and I
man.
remember them trying to run a sweep or something to my side, and I got the running back, and I just slung him out of bounds. And I looked at Matt Brown like, you may want to run that to the other side,
Ah.
not this side. Yeah, so those are the two games. And then, the game that everybody kind of remembers at Clemson was the Gator Bowl. That same year, we played Major Harris, and Major he was second in the Heisman.
Yeah.
And
West
everybody was
Virginia.
saying, how in the world are you going to beat Major Harris? And we end up beating him. I end up having a few good plays against him, and I end up winning the Gator Bowl MVP.
Wow.
Wow.
So there was a few games in my career that stood out for me.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
In your draft process, you was a second round pick. Did
Mm-hmm.
you have a chip on your shoulder? Because it was 4 other guys that went before you. Most notably, Quentin Coriat, who
Uh-huh.
you blew him out the water in your career. Did you have that the same way you said that coach came in and said, hey, the recruits are here, but not for you? Did you have that same mentality when these guys got drafted before you?
Yeah. I would be lying if I said that I didn't. But I had a feeling that I wasn't going to be drafted in the first round because what happened was I played outside backer and defensive end at Clemson
Mhm.
for 4 years, and then when I get to the Senior Bowl, Art Shell puts me at inside backer,
Mm.
and I had no clue on how to play inside backer, none. I never played it in my life,
Wow.
and I'm like, oh man, my stock is going to drop, right?
Hmm.
And but I guess everybody wanted to see me at that position because I was a 6'2", about 240 at the time. So they wanted to see that at inside backer, not
Right.
outside backer. And so they moved me, and I remember at first I was like, "Holy crap!" And then something came over me and just like, "Whatever you do, just go to the ball, just play hard during practice." So this was at the Senior Bowl. I ended up having a really great week that week, but I knew now that people were looking at me more so as an inside backer. I wasn't really a proven commodity there. And then also, I think I was a guy who belonged in the first round, but this is how it works. If you're a first round talent, but I can get you in the second round, I'm going to get you in the second round.
Right.
Yeah.
Because now I don't have to pay you as much. It's amazing how it goes, right? It's
Yeah,
not
they
about.
whooped you with a pen. They pencil whooped you on that one.
Hmm.
So let's so now you're playing your last game at Clemson.
Yes.
What are the emotions like, bro, when the zero strike on your last play at Clemson? What were you feeling? What were you going through?
You know what, man? I was looking forward to the next chapter of my life.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a sad chapter for me.
Okay.
It was more so like, man, uh, wow, now I get to go on and play in the NFL. And plus, my last game, we played California and we lost pretty badly at a bowl game. And I was just kind of, just at the time you're older and you just kind of like, man, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on from, because now you're getting the coach's speech and, you know, like that last game, I just didn't want to hear it.
I
I was
got you.
like,
I feel that.
you
I
don't want
got
to,
you.
especially when we didn't win the game in the first place. It was just like, let me take off my past, man. Let me get showered. Let me go back and let me, now it's the next chapter of my life.
Okay.
So I,
So
I, I didn't feel that, oh, I miss you, dear Clemson, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like I did. I felt like that I did everything I could in college. I felt like I played as well as I possibly could. So there's no regrets at all.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
but before Jody asks you a question, I have to ask you this. This you mentioned the Deion Sanders kick return. Now,
Yes.
were you in school when Leroy Butler did the punt
It's the
from
same. It's the same game.
What?
same game? So you it was the same game. I don't know
What?
what I was thinking.
Oh,
So
It's the same
so
game.
so
1988. We're ranked
exactly.
number. We're pretty high ranked. I think we're number 5 or something like that.
okay.
And it's a battle. Florida State and Clemson. I mean, it's a really good game. And they're up 21-14. We bust a run that ties it up 21-21.
Terry Allen was your running back, correct?
Terry Allen was our running back.
Shout out to
We
Terry
we
Allen.
kicked the ball off to them.
Mm.
One of the guys pushed me in my back, so we got a penalty. We got them backed up deep in our territory. They throw a ball, it gets tipped in the air, and one of our linebackers, it falls right through his hands.
I seen it.
And so now we're about to go on the team. It's the punt team. I think some of the coaches were like, we should play safe, even though we got them deep because I think one coach was thinking, and I think Clemson knew that they had a fake in. Like they knew that they would. It's a possibility, but they're at our 20-something yard line. We're thinking like, there's no way they're gonna fake this. But the thing about the fake, it wasn't just a fake. It had different. It was really a great play. It was a well drawn out play, and it had several levels to it. First and foremost, it seemed like the ball was snapped over the punter's head. So the punter fakes like the ball is snapped over his head. So that's one thing. Then on my side, they pull. So I'm like, oh, it's a fake. They're pulling, and I'm pulling, but the ball is in up the up back, the protection back arms the whole time. He counts like 1,001, 1,002, and he takes off. And
Mm.
before we know it, he's running down the sideline. And I'm like, and
Shout
we're
out to
like,
Leroy Butler.
it was heart wrenching.
Yeah, I watched that game when I was a kid. I was actually at horseback riding practice. Don't judge me, but
I won't.
I'm a judge.
Horseback riding, really? Wow.
yeah, I was
Equestrian.
yeah,
That's funny. Okay.
I was ranked horseback riding. So
All right. Wow.
yeah,
And he
yeah, so
cultured. He's
so
cultured.
so you get drafted, like to piggyback off what Jody said, you get drafted and you join a stacked Steelers linebacker core.
Right.
You got Greg Lloyd, who we mentioned, Kevin Green, rest his soul, Chad Brown, and among others. Then there's Darren Perry and Cardell Lake and Rod Woodson. Bro, how do you guys not?
Man.
How do you guys not win the championship every year?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't quite that way. When I first got there, the only linebacker we had, my first year was Greg Lloyd, David Little.
Okay.
Those were the big time guys. And then Hardy Nickerson was there too.
Yes.
And so this is Coach Cowher's first year too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you got to know that the Steelers were not that successful at first, right?
Right.
And so that year, my rookie year, man, we're playing the Houston Oilers and we're down 14-0. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be a long year. Coach Cowher decides that we faked the punt and we got all the way down to the 1. We actually won that game. So we've won like the first 2 games. We end up winning like 12 games that year. We surprised everybody. But the next year, we kind of revamped the defense. And that's when we brought in Kevin Green. And I didn't have the starting job right then. So me and David Little competed for the job. And so all through mini camps and all that stuff. But now I know the position better.
Right.
And I was second string until training camp about after the second game. And I remember them starting me the second game. And they didn't tell me that I was going to be the full-time starter at all. And so I ended up being the starter. And then Chad wasn't the starter for he didn't really start starting until maybe after Cleveland. And Chad really, he'll tell you the story. He wasn't doing what he's supposed to do. And I remember Jerry Oslowski was the guy who started beside me. He blows out his knee. And instead of Chad coming in, a guy named Reggie Barnes come in because Marvin Lewis thinks that Reggie is more prepared than Chad is.
So Marvin Lewis was you guys' DC at this time?
No, he's our defense. He's our linebacker coach.
Linebacker coach. Okay.
Linebacker coach. We had Dom Capers was our defensive coordinator, so we had a hell of a. And then Dick LeBeau was the defensive back coach.
Yeah.
So we had a staff now, and so Chad. After that game, Chad goes into Marvin Lewis and goes off why he wasn't starting. Marvin tells him, and Chad's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm gonna be the starter. I'm gonna be the starter." To his credit, he started the next week, and that was the birth. And it was so funny because that team had a great mixture of veteran guys and young guys, and we just started because Kevin and Greg were so good, Pro Bowl level guys.
Yeah.
Me and Chad did not want to be the weak link. We're in the middle of this defense, and we're both young guys. I'm in my second year. He's in his first year. And we really leaned on each other because we knew people were going to go after us because we're the young guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that first year, we went through our kind of ups and downs, but you could tell we were going to be good. And then that next year, man, that's when Blitzburg really became Blitzburg. That's when we were all gelled together because now we already had all of us was coming back after 1 year of playing together. So that second year, man, we tore up the league. We did. And you're right. With that defensive lineup that we had, it is a shame that we did not win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I see Steed here.
Joe Steed, who was Joe C, who was a Pro Bowler, who's one of the
Yeah,
best nose
Yeah.
Dawson.
guards.
Yeah, Dawson here, guys.
Yeah, we had a
Bro,
team,
y'all should have reeled off at least 3 Super Bowls.
but we went together only but 3 years though.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So those 3 years y'all were together,
Hmm.
Levon. You need to have 3 Super Bowl rings right now.
Oh yeah, but also too, I, we didn't. The one thing we missed, we had everything. We had a great offensive line with Demonte Dawson, who's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
So we were stacked on the offensive line.
Very,
Had
very Foster,
good
right?
wide receivers. We had Yancey Thigpen. We had guys like Ernie Mills, Charles
Yeah, Charles
Johnson.
Johnson too, correct?
We had Cordell Stewart on the team as well.
You had Charles
We
Johnson, if I'm not mistaken.
we had Charles Johnson. We had like Barry Foster as our running back. Bam Morris.
Yep.
Dude, we had a squad now.
So again,
But the only
Neil
thing we
Levon,
didn't
O'Donnell.
have,
They had Neil O'Donnell too.
yeah,
is that top-notch quarterback.
again, Levon, y'all need 3 Super Bowl rings, bro.
I know, man.
you. So
We were close. We got there, but we just didn't win it.
yeah,
But we had a squad for those 3 years, man. We definitely had a team.
yeah, bro. That was terrorization. That was terrorization to any
Oh
offense.
yeah.
So
Oh man, we brought and the cool thing was we all had 90 numbers too.
yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask.
It
What was
was
that
dope.
about?
It was dope. So people really, because we were so innovative as far as what we did scheme wise, that you didn't really know who was coming.
Right.
that makes sense.
It was unique. It was pretty cool.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So let me ask you this, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll let Jody get in here. Why the heck was Greg Lloyd so mean? Because I seen a game where you guys were playing the Dolphins, and I think y'all put Dan Marino out the game that
He
game.
put,
Yeah,
but he really actually said he was going to do it.
yeah.
Yeah, he told everybody that he was going to.
So hold on, Lamar. So I seen Dan reach up to try to grab him to get some support from him, and I seen Greg's like, man, get off me.
Man, you know how what I talked about before, like you like origin stories of guys.
Mhm.
He is. You got to know where he comes from.
Yeah,
Greg didn't have the best support coming from from his family, and I think his mother kind of left him, and so he didn't really have. I don't know, and me and Greg are really good friends now, but Greg just had a huge chip
yeah.
on his shoulder, and so man, he just took it out on people, man.
Yeah, he did.
Whether it was teammates of his teammates or the opponents, man. Like the dude was rocked up first and foremost. He was chiseled. He comes from this background that wasn't the best. Like his parents wasn't really there, so he just had a thing about people who had fathers in their lives. So if you had your dad in your life, Greg didn't like you. Plus, you take somebody like that and you give him the discipline of being in Taekwondo.
Okay.
And so now he's a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Wow.
And then he went to an HBCU
Yes.
school. So all these people who were getting drafted went to a higher school. So he got all this rage.
Yeah.
It makes for the perfect bad guy.
It does. It was
He's
definitely you guys as black-hearted villain.
he's legitimately designed to be the bad guy.
So we'll ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
You had an absurd amount of tackles through your career. I see 1,026 career tackles,
Right.
19 and a half career sacks. 11 interceptions, 16 forced fumbles, 9 fumble recoveries, man. And it also says that, and we talked about it earlier. You love to cover more than you love to hit.
Right.
Explain that. and explain that, and why were you so dominant at both?
Well, now in high school, I love playing wide receiver.
What?
I was in high school. I was a wide receiver. Well, kind of a split in tight end. I return punts and I return kickoffs. So I like catching the ball. I like scoring. I like catching touchdowns back in the day.
Okay.
So I grew up loving catching the ball, and interceptions, was the only way I could do that. So when I got to college, I had an opportunity to play tight end at Clemson. But the only thing we did at Clemson, they just blocked all the time. And in my high school, we threw the ball to the tight end and the split end.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was gonna get off my red shirt year because they had some injuries at tight end. And Coach Ford asked me, would you like to move to tight end? I was like, I thought about it. I was like, no, I'll play defense. But I like catching the ball. I always love catching the ball. It is my secret. It was always I wanted to play wide receiver. I didn't want outside linebacker, inside linebackers. It just happened to fit my ability, but I wanted to play wide receiver. I always dreamt of being a wide receiver. So that's why I love catching the ball. And honestly, I had more than they say I had how many interceptions? 11 or so?
It said 11 interceptions.
I actually, well, in the playoffs, they don't count interceptions.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I've read too.
Yeah, so I actually had some interceptions in the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
So the number is more like 15 interceptions.
Yeah, you have 14 playoff interceptions.
Yeah.
I mean four. You have 4 playoff interceptions.
So it's like 14. Yeah, it's 15.
15.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking at your career in 95 and 80, 89 and 97, and you had 97 tackles and 99 tackles in 95 and 89. Am I looking at it right?
Yeah, he had what year?
In 97 and 99.
In 97, he had 126 total tackles.
That's insane, bro.
126 especially when you run a 3-4 and you got 2 linebackers.
And then there was another 2 seasons he had 95 and 89 tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous, man. Why were you hitting people that much, Levon?
Well, it was a good scheme, and I mean, after a while, you get really good at it. You get the repetition. You see plays over and over. You recognize what people are trying to do, and like I said, man, the aggressive one is the one who least likely get hurt. So I learned how to be aggressive, and just worked for me. I mean, I knew how to make plays, and you're right. Like for most schemes, the 4-3, the middle linebacker makes a lot of the plays. I was the inside backer,
Right.
so honestly, I mean, I'm not the only one who's just making tackles.
Right.
But you were gobbling up a lot of them.
I'm competing with a guy who's right beside me,
Yeah.
and then the outside linebackers are making tackles too. In a 4-3 scheme, is mostly designed for the middle linebacker to make the most tackles.
Right.
Okay.
So I made a good bit of tackles being the 3-4 linebacker.
And I want to really talk about 1997. You was all pro. Was you third in defensive player of the year in that year?
I think it was pretty close.
And you had, like you said, 126 tackles. That's impressive. But to have 5 sacks and another 2 interceptions, and
which that year I actually had 5. I had 5 interceptions altogether because I got like 3 interceptions in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was just a historical year. Like you said, you're competing with another middle linebacker besides you that's they and all y'all want to hit. And
Right.
like I said, I followed y'all more because that's when Cleveland was not a team anymore. So I followed
Right.
y'all.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, I don't know. We'll talk about that at a later date. But what was one of your like that season right there was like a dream season for any NFL player. But what was one of your most memorable moments when you got to the league? Like, what was a memorable moment that you just always think about on a consistent basis?
I'm gonna tell you the one of my best moments is funny. We're playing Miami and we're playing against the great Dan Marino. And I remember him coming up to the line of scrimmage and he looks at me and then he looks at Keith Jackson, who's their tight end at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time. And I'm like, you ever sometimes you can have a feeling about something before it happens. And so playing inside linebacker, that happened a lot. You have like oh, they're about to do this.
right.
Oh, they're about to do this. But I knew when he looked at Keith Jackson and he looked at me, I'm like, they're trying to take me deep. And so I stepped back, like one step. You can see it. I stepped back. It's a play action pass. But what I did was when the run motion was happening to me, I looked at Keith Jackson and he's coming off the line of scrimmage. I'm like, oh, it's a pass. So I roll with him. I'm running with him stride for stride. So probably in Dan Marino's mind is that Keith can beat this big linebacker. And he threw it, and I saw Keith Jackson looking back for the ball. I look back, and the ball hits my hands, and I just intercepted Dan Marino.
Oh, yeah. Do you still got that ball?
I still have that ball. And I was
Okay.
like, in my mind, I was thinking, oh my God, I just picked off Dan Marino.
Wow.
That
Wow.
was, it's not like I got it, I got a couple interceptions before that, but that was the big one there. To intercept someone like Dan Marino, I mean, that's like, I guess, like almost blocking Michael Jordan's shot or
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
To get one of the great ones, to pick off a great player, a Hall of Famer, it was
Amen.
big for
man.
me. It was big for me. And I was like, okay, dude, you can make plays in this league.
Yeah, you after that, I don't think the sky was even the limit. So in 95, let's go to 95 right quick, Levon. Uh 95, your best good friend, Greg, gets hurt, injured his knee. You had to step up, explain the significance of his loss, and how did that inspire you to be better?
I was ready to play. Well, at the time, I wasn't. A lot of people don't know I didn't play third down a lot of times. My first
Really,
few years,
I didn't realize that.
my first couple of years, I didn't play third down. So Greg was the middle. So they would switch Greg to the middle linebacker, and they would put Chad on the. Chad was a rush guy. Kevin was a rush guy. So I was the only one who didn't play third down with those backers.
Mm.
And I wanted to be a third down guy, right? And so I was backing up Greg the whole time. And that year, man, I knew I was like, dude, you know you're ready to play it, like. But as long as Greg was in there, I wasn't going to be that guy. So I just kind of, I was really good at it. Even I knew I was good at it. And when he got hurt, I was ready to go in. I was ready to go in, and I think I led the league at one point in time because I had like 4 interceptions.
Yeah,
I led the league for the first part of the year. I led the league in interceptions
Yeah.
because I like, man, oh dude, I was in because I knew what teams were trying to do, and so everybody like my size was my biggest advantage, man, because people always underestimated like my size. They thought, oh, he's slower. until they played against me, and they're like, "This dude, hey man." I used to get people. I used to get people to always tell me, "Man, like, dude, we watch you on film. Oh my god,
Man,
like we have never seen anything like this before."
amazing feat. Amazing feat.
I think that was that was the thing. My feet were. I worked with Todd Marinovich father. I worked
Yeah.
out with him, and
Yeah, the
that's what he.
great USC quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah.
So his father was a hell of a trainer. Now, so I worked with his father. His father trained me like 2 weeks the before the draft, or 2 weeks like just off season, kind of work with him after my senior year. And this is what his father told me. He's like, your feet are better than most running back feet. Like
Yes.
he said, you got quickness of a running back. And that's when he said you're gonna make a better inside linebacker than you ever was an outside linebacker. He said you're perfectly suited to play inside linebacker. And he said your size is going to give you an advantage than most guys. He said you're more athletic, your feet are quicker than most people would ever imagine an inside backer was going to be. So really, my feet were my saving grace.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you were ready to step up when Greg went down,
Mm-hmm.
and what I seen after that was two-time Pro Bowler, first team All Pro, second team All Pro, NFL Linebacker of the Year, and 1990 All Decade Team.
Yeah, man. It was, honestly, I was ready for that. I was ready for that time. And it was the grace of God, but I was ready, And a lot of times you get opportunities and you just have to take advantage of the opportunity that you got. So it was unfortunate. In a way, it was unfortunate that Greg got hurt. But for me, it was an opportunity for me to show everybody what kind of linebacker I really was.
You were a bad man.
Yeah. So guys will be just like, I can't believe, one of the running jokes on the team was in minicamp that we have new guys coming in. And Mark Bruner and actually Malarkey, who actually was our tight end coach, who was the head coach with Buffalo at one point in time.
Is that Mike Malarkey?
Mhm.
Yeah, Mike Malarkey.
Yeah.
And they would tell all the tight ends that would come in, they were just like, no matter what you do, you cannot beat number 99 deep. And so the rookies would come in thinking like, oh, this big dude, I take him deep every day of the week. And so we get out there and start practicing, man. And those dudes would try to take me deep. And I'm running stride for stride with them.
Nah.
And they're just like, how in the world?
Bro,
So it
you
was,
have legendary speed like Larry Allen, man. They don't talk about you enough.
you know what? Like I said, I probably didn't have the numbers or anything like that. But I think everybody that was playing in the 90s recognized what a player I was. And, if you get all decades, you get voted on the all decade team. I mean, like in in that one decade, that means you were the best player during that decade.
Absolutely.
So I think I was just probably just very underrated. I wasn't, also I wasn't a guy who was very flamboyant during this time. I was more business mind. And also, the game is also entertainment. They want, they draw to guys who are entertaining
Right.
as well. That wasn't I have the personality, but my game did not show that. My game was I was kind of like even kill, made plays, whatever. I was intense, but I wasn't, if you're not jumping around, things like that, you sometimes the media, they don't see you as the player that you really are.
I know we it's been wonderful. I could talk to you all night, but I know at some point you're gonna have to go.
Right.
But I got this question right here. This is like my last question,
Okay.
and it may be low key a sore spot. The Super Bowl, the Super Bowl against the Dallas Cowboys,
Hmm.
and I mean, I was rooting because I'm an AFC guy. I was rooting for y'all, even though I'm a Browns. I was rooting for you guys.
Sure.
And run me through that game. And do you think it was things y'all could have did differently? Like, I mean, the interception to Larry Brown, and I ain't seen Larry Brown make a play the whole year. And then he gets what, Super Bowl MVP. How,
Yes.
can you run me? I know it's a sore spot, but can you run me through that, like just that experience through the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah. For me, actually, for me, that was probably the breakout game for me before my first year Pro Bowl. I ended up having like maybe 10 tackles. Really a great sack against Troy Aikman. We stuffed Emmitt Smith
Yeah,
the whole
they did.
time.
They did.
And the one thing I do remember from that game is a guy named Matt Millen. I guess you guys probably know who Matt Millen
We
is.
do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was commentating at the time before he became a GM,
Mhm.
and he gave word to a guy named Alvoy Mays. He really liked me as a player. Matt Millen did,
Yeah.
and Matt Millen came. He told Alvoy Mays to talk to me before the game. So Alvoy, he comes up to me. He said, "Hey, Kirk, man." And I'm like, "What the hell you want, Alvoy? You're about to play the biggest game of my life, right?" And he wasn't even dressing out. But man, the word he gave me from Matt Millen was amazing. Matt Millen was telling me that he thought I was the dark horse on this team, and that I was seeing the right things, but I wasn't trusting what I was seeing. This is my fourth year.
Mhm.
Really, just my third year just playing. I never, my fourth year ever playing inside backer. So my instincts are starting to grow in the position. But he told me like, you're seeing the right things, you just don't trust it. He was like, tonight, trust your eyes.
Oh
And it
wow.
was my aha moment.
Yeah. So this is something personal for me,
Okay.
and you don't have to mention it, but I see in 2013 you lost your queen.
Right.
Uh, how were you able to cope with that? Because I went through a similar thing in 21 where I lost my queen on September the 11th, 2021.
Oh
How
wow.
are you able to cope with that personally? Because this probably could help me.
Oh man, we're real close, right? Oh
Yeah.
man, because yeah. So wow, it was an experience that I would never forget. She's someone that I would never forget. Um, but I think the thing that really helped me was that you have to understand that you don't really own anybody. Like how we say this is mine or my wife or my whatever. Um, you don't really own them. And I looked at her death as a courageous fight. She really fought well. And it was tough for me. I mean, it really was. I had a daughter, man, and she was young at the time. And it was super tough. But you know, I think about Keisha and what she stood for. And I think about my daughter. I think that it was it was up to me to reinvent myself. It was up to me to continue to live life. And that's hard when because a lot of times you date somebody, especially you marry them, you're thinking you're both gonna die on the porch on the swing together. And I think it's especially tougher for men when we lose our spouse
Yeah. It is.
because there's for men a lot of times our women are our support system,
That's true.
and they take us to another. you know I think there's something in the Bible that really talks about how you're better as two people are better than one, and how a significant other actually makes you better as a man. And to lose that was devastating to me. It really was. It took me a while to get over that, but there was some counseling there. There was, but then even after counseling, you have to take ownership of your life and how you want to move forward. And I thought it would be better for me to honor her in such a way by moving forward and living life, and also having a child and being an example for that child.
Okay.
And that's, but it's tough, man. I wouldn't wish that on anybody,
Absolutely.
especially like, how old are you?
I am 49.
See, I was 43. She was only 41 when she passed away.
She was 47.
Yeah.
47 was.
It's tough, man. And for us, especially like me being, playing the position I play, which calls for a certain temperament. Um, everybody thinks you're supposed to be you're just strong guy. They think men we're supposed to handle everything,
Mm-mm.
and man, I don't care who you are, dude. That would take you to your knees, and it
It,
took me to my knees. It really did. I had to really, I had a battle, man. I had to really battle, and I think I would say make sure that you're not doing this by yourself. I would tell anybody.
uh-oh. We lose him. You there, bro? Can you hear me? I don't know what happened. We lost everybody. Um, let's try to get them back. It ended before we got to ask him his Mount Rushmore of all-time Clemson guys and all-time Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. I don't know what happened, but
Actually, my phone went down, so I'm sorry about that.
oh, it's okay.
Yeah. So we
Hang on.
okay.
So I'm glad you helped me out with that, bro, because as a man I've been struggling with
Oh
that
yeah,
Levon so bad.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I would say this too. I would say don't try to do this by yourself. Get some. to
Okay.
get someone that you can really trust or get professional counseling to work yourself through this.
Okay.
Because I know as men sometimes we may feel guilty. We may feel like what we could have
I
done.
will, and I'll call you later and tell you about the guilt.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do, and we'll get you out of here, man. It was so much we wanted to ask you, but we play Mount Rushmore over here, and we want you, but we do 5, so we call it Mount Brumore. So we
Okay.
go your all-time 5 from Clemson, and then your all-time 5 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, wow, wow. Those are some hard ones. But okay, let's start with Clemson.
Okay,
Guys, I would say Homer Jordan
okay,
is one of my guys. Defensively, that's a tough one too. I I want to say Brian Dawkins
whoa,
is up there.
okay,
It was hard between him. It's hard between him and Malcolm Dean Perry. Uh,
whoo.
but I would put him in there. I from a new standpoint, I would have to say that I like ETN.
Okay, okay.
I think ETN might have been the best running back we've ever had. And I love Terry Allen, and
Oh, I was gonna say that got
I
to be
love
tough.
Terry Allen, and I love Kenny Flowers. But
You
I
don't
think
like C.J. Spiller?
I do like CJ Stroud. I think CJ was great, but not as good as ETN. I think ETN is a better running back.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I think he's a better running back. I don't know if, to me, this may sound blasphemous, but I don't know if CJ was a better running back than Terry Allen.
You know what?
I think
I
Terry
have no
Allen was.
argument there.
I think CJ definitely has speed, just crazy ability.
Mm,
As far as running back is concerned, Terry Allen was that guy.
yeah.
Okay, so I put Homer Jordan on there. I put Brian Dawkins, ETN. The other two, ooh, gosh, that is so hard.
I remember you mentioned Michael Dean Perry. You don't have room for it?
Well, I gotta. Okay, my heart of hearts between Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson.
I'm taking Deshaun.
I think this. This is what I always say. I always said that I think Trevor has probably a little bit more talent than Deshaun, overall talent,
Okay.
but Deshaun was that guy. To
Okay.
me, Deshaun put Clemson on another level.
I agree.
He put them on, like, if I mean, like, Deshaun was the guy, in my opinion, if you absolutely positively needed a drive or a touchdown, Deshaun was going to deliver.
And that's what I loved about him.
And that's what I have to take that over. Now, Trevor, now that Ohio State run he had was amazing, and Trevor's doing some great things in the league. But Clemson wise, I gotta say Deshaun.
Okay.
So I got room for one more guy, right?
You got room for one more.
Okay, I would have to say Malcolm Dean Perry.
Michael Dean Perry. There you go. Shout out to Michael Dean Perry and Deshaun Watson.
Malcolm Dean Perry was so underrated as a player.
They don't give him no props. They
That,
talk about
that,
him no more.
that guy was an AFC Defensive Player of the Year at basically the three technique. You know how hard that is?
I do.
I seen this one story about Michael Dean was at practice one time. He got kicked out of practice because he was dominating so badly that he kicked him out of practice.
It sounds like Ronnie Lott status.
Yeah, and I was like, that's who I want. And I was a freshman. I was like, that's who I'm trying to be right there. I want to get kicked out of practice because I'm making so many plays and being so destructive that nobody, they can't block me and they can't get anything done. So they got to kick me out.
So
Yeah.
now let's go to your all-time favorite Steelers, and this is gonna be tough. I already see this coming.
This is really tough for me. I
Yeah.
mean, because there's so many all-time great Pittsburgh Steelers people are Steelers in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
But you are asking me my top guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Your
Okay.
all-time five. Your
So
all-time
I'm
five.
not gonna go probably conventional top 10, top five Steeler list. I'm going to go the first one definitely is Mean Joe Green because I think that he did set the standard.
Absolutely.
You got to
Absolutely.
go with Mean Joe Green. My next guy is Mel Blunt
Okay.
because I think he recreated the defense. I think he was. You still can't find a DB like him.
You can't.
Can you find me a 6'4" DB who can cover like he could?
No.
I doubt it. So
No.
Mel Blunt is definitely in my top two. Now, as it comes down to the last three, God, that is hard. I gotta put Demonte Dawson in there.
Okay.
Demonte Dawson because that guy might have been the most athletic center I've seen in my life. And Pittsburgh's known for, they got a legacy of linebackers, but they definitely got a legacy of centers too. And Demonte Dawson is probably by far the best center I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, the guy
Absolutely.
he could snap it and pull and lead on the sweep.
He's a
And that's
bad
the
man. I've
first time
watched
I
him.
ever saw a man do that. There's some guys who can do it now, but that was the first guy that I remember or recall that can do that. I have to also put on there too Rod Woodson.
Absolutely. Wouldn't be a top five without Rod.
Be hard to be a top five without Rod. It would just be hard because Rod Woodson can kind of do it all. And I mean, he was a
Okay.
guy. He when I first went into pros, I thought he might have been the best teammate I ever. I mean, the best player that was on my team.
He's a bad man.
He's a bad guy. Now, this last one is going to be a linebacker, but it's just, oh man, this one is hard
Woo.
because in a lot of ways I do want to say Greg Lloyd, but I got to put Jack Lambert up there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I
Jack
mean,
Lambert or Jack Ham. I love Jack Ham's game though. Jack Ham was a baller.
I
I
don't think
think Jack.
Greg.
You know what? I'm gonna switch that. I'm gonna put Jack Ham instead of Jack.
Okay. I don't think Greg Lloyd would be mad either way by you saying that because man, y'all are defensive. Y'all are the defensive capital of the world.
No question about that. We are
Yeah.
defense. I mean, they love defense more than they like offense. But man, I know people love Jack Lambert, but watch Jack Ham and how
I've seen him.
versatile Jack Ham was, and what he can do as far as interceptions were concerned. That's what I loved about Jack Ham. He was cerebral in what he did. I think Jack Lambert was the more, he was that prototypical, stereotypical linebacker, mean, throw you to the ground, talk trash. And that really is, I mean, he entertained. Jack Ham was a straight baller.
He was.
He could
He
do
was.
stuff. He was doing stuff at the outside linebacker. He was kind of like a Derek Brooks.
That's that's high praise for Derek.
I'm telling you, Jack Ham was that guy. And I know most people would say Jack Lambert, but they're saying Jack Lambert because of Jack Lambert behavior, his demeanor. That's why. And nope, and I'm not going to, Jack Lambert was the man too now. He was. There's no question about it. But I love Jack Ham's game a little bit more than I like Jack Lambert's.
That's that linebacker talk, baby. That's
Yeah, man.
that linebacker talk. Bro, You have no idea how honored we were to have you tonight. We've been talking about it for the past 2 weeks.
Oh man,
We,
thank you
we
guys for having
no,
me. I
thank
appreciate
you,
it.
man, and thank you. Actually, helped me out a lot tonight too, also, bro. And man, we want to invite you back because we got another sheet of paper we wanted to talk to you about. So,
Indeed.
whenever you feel up to it, man, we want to ask you to come back, and we thank you for being a part of this football fraternity, bro. And uh, I seen also you're up for the Hall of Fame soon.
Yeah, up for it again. We'll see. College
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. That may happen.
Well,
We'll
well,
see.
we're gonna be rooting for you, bro. We're gonna be
Thank you.
you'll probably get to see my co-host there because he has his media pass and he gets to see you. You just hey, shout out to All Pro Sports.
All right, man. I do that.
All right, man. We love you, bro, and thank you for everything you've done for the game of football.
Love you too, man. And reach out to me at any time, okay?
Thank you, brother.
All right, bro.
Bye. That was my man, Levon Kirkland. Don't know what happened. We got our wires crossed tonight. Sorry about the misconfusion tonight, but we're streaming on all platforms: Apple Music, YouTube. Where else are we? Spotify and iHeart. So let's come by, show love, and whoever shows love, we're gonna start doing gift giveaways. So there'll be $100 gift cards, there'll be jerseys, there'll be all of that here soon. So we just want to thank you all for stopping by and coming through, and we'll see you on the next one. All Pro.